Jana Eubank. I'm here today to do a process video for the page I'm doing for noelmignon.com. This week on the blog we are doing a pumpkin patch challenge where we're supposed to use patches of paper, patches of pattern, and stitching if we'd like. So I'm trying to decide which pictures to use. I have these pictures of a pumpkin my daughter carved on a dance, and then I also have a picture of my son with a friend that moved away, and he came back in town and they took this quick picture together when they were hanging out. So these are both things that I think would be fun to record with the all fall kits. And I'm not sure I think I might go with this one because if I'm doing lots of patches of paper, it might look better to have one photo as opposed to 3 smaller photos. So I'm gonna get started and see where it takes me. The first thing I do is look at some background papers, and I decide to go with the brown because I like how masculine it feels, and I also like how all the patterns of these little 2x2 simple story squares looks against the darker background. I love the little 2x2 cards, and a lot of times I end up cutting the designs out and using them as embellishments, but this time I decided to use them as a patchwork in the background. So I'm just going through them and arranging them in a way that feels good. I was looking through the journaling cards for more patterns to incorporate, and I stumbled across this cute little fox and decided to trim him out and use him as an accent on the page. I'm wanting to put a strip of pattern paper across the bottom for the photo and the fox to sit on. So I'm just going through some options. For a second I thought, well, maybe just a border sticker will work, but it was too thin, so I'm flipping through the papers and finding something. I pull out those 2 simple stories patterns, the green and the yellow, and also the red pattern from the Cartabella Autumn collection. I also pull out some scraps from last month's following kits to see if anything in those will work. And that's when I come across a few embellishments that I had left over. So the little rubber charm, the mushroom, ends up making it on the page, and then I also use the fabric flowers from the following kits. I think those flowers are by Queen & Company if I'm remembering right. I'm still trying to decide what color to put across the bottom, and I go with the green because I want 3 spots of green. And here I'm just deciding, do I want to layer up some more color behind the brown? And I can't decide, so I kind of shuffle things around and try it out. I do like the blue, but I don't commit to it at this point. When I was looking through the stickers, I found these pebbles, woodland creatures, and I think for a minute, well, maybe I'll pull that fox and raccoon out and make them 2 little friends, kind of like my son and his friend. So I set those aside and put all the squares on the background and decide to come back and decide that later. Here I'm just making sure all the squares are lined up with my Imaginist ruler. I trimmed the photo a little bit just because it had some empty space at the top, and trimming it down made it feel a little better. I was about to cut this green strip when I thought, you know what? I'm going to cut along this pattern and make it a little arrow that goes across the page. And I like how that turned out. The photo needs a mat around it, I decide, because there's so much pattern going on. I want the photo to stand out a little bit more. So I was just trying some cardstocks and deciding which one I would do. Obviously, I set that aside for a second and I got distracted with the cute little woodland critters. I try out the fox and the raccoon, but I decide I'm not to use them. And here I'm just matting the photo with some yellow cardstock from the kit, using my perfect layers rulers. I think I put a 1/8 inch edge on that photo. I'm shuffling it around because I don't want to cover the nose of the hedgehog up in the corner. And because of that, I adhered the photo a little lower, and so it feels a little too low on that green chevron strip. So I decided to add another strip of pattern below that. And I choose the red from the Cartabella Autumn collection. And here's where I stick back those two critters and go with the fox that I picked out in the first place. I do pull some of those leaf stickers from that sticker sheet and create a little cluster off to the left and right. I had the two fabric flowers. I have the one on the right and then the one on the left by the circle, and I leave the one on the left there for a while, but it ends up bothering me, I think, because it's just so parallel with the other one. So you'll see at the end that I do take that off. But it's a struggle. I can't decide. It's like the last minute I go, no. Here I'm just deciding how many flowers I want to sprinkle around, and I'm struggling with that a little bit too. I think because of that orange flower on the left, it just feels a little too parallel, like it's cutting across. I don't know. That was just my thought. I'm just pulling out some other little word phrases and things and seeing if I want to add those. And I do add one of these Pebbles word stickers below the hedgehog. I like to use tweezers when I'm handling smaller stickers. I just feel like my fingers are so much in the way, and holding those smaller stickers with a set of tweezers just gives me a better view, helps me to center things and just get it positioned how I want. So now I'm jumping down and working on my title, and I pull out the Heidi Swap stamps from the kit, and I'm going to use the word remember because this is a friend of Owen's that moved away and I want him to remember him. I stamped the word with brown ink on some white cardstock, and then I do take the time to fussy cut out each little letter. And there they are cut out, and now I'm going to adhere them down using my tweezers so I can position them exactly how I want. I capped off the top of the squares and the top of the photo with a few craft photo corners from my stash. And now I'm just going through things in the kit and deciding if there's anything else I want to add, especially because that orange flower on the left is still bothering me. I want something in that brown wood grain square above the fox, and I pick out this little flare from Pretty Little Studio. I think it's designed by Ashley Horton, and I'm like, oh, that's so cute, but the boys might be annoyed that it has a heart. Like, they might think that's too lovey-dovey, but guess what? I do it anyway. It's my page, right? After going through all the effort of getting things straightened on that page, I do decide to trim down the brown cardstock. And here I'm just trimming each edge down a little at a time and deciding how small I want to go with that brown cardstock square. I do cut the bottom a little too short, so I cut it off behind the green chevron strip and adhere the red strip back onto some brown cardstock and kind of doctor it and put it back together. And I love the blue background, but I still feel like it needs a bit more, and I'm just auditioning some other papers to see what might work. I peel off the orange flower finally. Yay! But I still think, well, maybe I need it somewhere to add another fabric element so there's not just the one gingham flower. I was going to put a center strip of pattern paper behind the brown block of cardstock, but then I just end up, you know what, I'm going to double mat this with the yellow. Keep it simple. Finally stick down that heart, and here I am just cutting out my journaling strips. I can never cut them straight on the trimmer, so I have a file that I use on my computer where I have the lines in like a 0.1, 0.2, and I just cut them out by hand with my scissors using those lines. So here they are all adhered down, and I mess with that orange the smaller fabric flower some more, and I kind of mess with some embellishments, thinking I need to add a couple more 3D elements. And then I finally just settle on adding a single button. So I've got the dimensional gingham flower on the right, the rubber charm and the heart flare on the left by the fox, and then I add the orange button to the tip of the green chevron strip. And those are my 3 spots of dimension. Hi guys, just as a final closing shot, I came back. Here's what my page looks like with the stitching added. And then this corner felt a little empty, so I decided to just put 2 little butterflies up here, which kind of signify the friendship of these 2 boys, which I'm sure they won't like me signifying their friendship with girly butterflies, but I think it's cute. It's nature, it works, they're outside, and that's it for this page.